Hello everyone, in this video we're going to again be doing something kind of new. We're going to be talking about a project in Canada called the Alto. It is a high-speed rail project going between Toronto, Peterborough, Ottawa, Montreal, Laval, Trois-Rivières, and Quebec City. The trains are set to go 300 kilometers per hour, which is much faster than anything Canada has ever seen. It is 100 kilometers faster than the existing Siemens sets, which are never really going to be able to hit their top speed as they can only go 160 due to freight on Canadian National and Canadian Pacific Kansas City. Now, two things regarding the routing of the Alto trains are getting out of Toronto and that Peterborough is back on a train map. It originally was serviced by Via beginning in 1978 when the company started until 1982 when Go Transit was formed and decided they did not want that line. Via did run the line again in 1984 up until 1990 when it was closed for good. And those tracks have actually been sitting abandoned since then. But the tracks are still there, it's just heavily overgrown. So, one thing that they could do is they could bring those tracks back. They could, like, cover and take out the old tracks and replace them with new slightly straighter tracks in the same kind of area. Um, and these tracks would extend from the Stouffville line. After Stouffville, it would go through Goodwood and then Uxbridge. And then you would have to build new lines to Peterborough, as I don't think that those tracks remain. It's now a trail, which can be put back to its original form as rail and slightly straightened. Um, Another concern is that you're going to be destroying probably at least 50 houses. I don't know, that's just a guess. 50 buildings to try and straighten out this track, and you're going to be cutting off people's access. So they're going to have to configure things around. Um, and it depends on where they build it and how they decide to cut through farms and stuff. So, the issues regarding Toronto, or at least getting out of Toronto. So, what they could do is one option for the lines that they could rebuild slash connect is you could go out of Union, come up the Richmond Hill line for Go, build tracks that used to exist. They still exist, they're just abandoned and they're not connected to trackage anymore, but you can still reconnect them, and those go into the CP tracks. Um, and then you would just follow the CP tracks, or you could even, if you look at the yellow line, uh, just go up the CN line through this little shortcut, which would require rebuilding a junction that is currently a trail. I think it's called the Don Mills Trail. You would need to rebuild that into track and then cut across CN tracks back to the CP tracks, which you would need to build a track because it's a bridge. It's not, you would need to make a junction that could go back onto the CP tracks. And then another option is the Stouffville line, which you just go up the Stouffville line and then extend the tracks because they do have existing tracks that, again, are very abandoned and overgrown. But they do extend from Stouffville through Goodwood to Uxbridge. Goodwood is a small town in between Stouffville and Uxbridge, if any of you are wondering. And then a third option would be just going up the Bala Sub, which is what the Richmond Hill line runs on, and then going through the previously mentioned lines we've talked about, which are like in the downtown of Toronto, and then just going straight up the CP tracks, not even cutting across CN's trackage, which could just be faster because I do believe that there are less CP trains, as I've tried to railfan there and not been very successful. So that's how I've been, unless I've just been unlucky. Um, you guys can give your input on what you think about the usage of the tracks. But yeah, those are my three ideas. I'm just saying what I think. So if you guys disagree with me, that's perfectly fine. I don't know what routing they're going to use, so I'm just guessing at this point. I don't know if by the time I'm done with the video that they'll have more news, but they probably won't, since they're planning to take like 5 to 6 years to build this thing, which, knowing Canada and the Eglinton Crosstown line, which has now taken 14 years, which is way too long, but I know that they've had its issues. They've also been slow with it. But anyway, I know that they'll probably take a little bit longer than 6 years, but hopefully they can get it done quickly. At least before 10 years would be good, but that depends on how fast they are at constructing. Now, since they are going to be rebuilding some new tracks, what I think they should do is they should build an extra track for, or an extra two tracks for via trains and or go trains to run further, so go trains can extend if they use the Stouffville line to like start off and get out of Toronto. Then I think that they should make stations in Goodwood and Uxbridge for go trains and not for the high speed line. um, you could potentially make a station in Uxbridge for the high speed line, but I don't know, that's up to them. And but I think that GO train should definitely be extended to Uxbridge. Um, it would make the service better because you could be serving more places, and it isn't so far from Stouffville. So yeah. Or another thing they could do is they could make like new via trains along the Peterborough routing, so between Toronto and Peterborough, or even between like Peterborough and Ottawa, or anywhere else along the high speed rail route that uses different tracks. You can stop through different cities slash towns, like towns or communities, and make little stations for normal via trains to go by. Um, Although that would probably be a little bit too expensive to have four tracks running through everywhere, and it would take up too much space. So, but I definitely think that the GO train tracks should be extended to Uxbridge because I think that would benefit it. Now, why is this important for Canada? Well, it's important because Canada is the last country in its state of economy to be getting a high speed rail line. It has had two types of uh, high speed rail line, or it was dubbed high speed. This was the turbo, the CN Turbo, which became Via Turbos. However, they're no longer in service as they had issues and were scrapped. I don't think any of them exist anymore. Um, However, the Via Lumisets, which are yellow with a black stripe, represent the black stripe is there because it's trying to recreate the Via Turbo livery, which had a blue stripe instead of a black stripe. I do not know why Via chose to do a black stripe, but I guess you can kind of say that Via has a heritage unit, but not really. I don't know. It's debatable. Anyway, the other set is the LRCs, um, which ran in the 80s and were literally dubbed high speed rail of Canada. And they still exist. There's two, two of the LRC engines exist, yet I don't know how many cars Via has, but like probably the whole percentage of LRC cars are like they're still existing. Yes, they're 45 years old, but Via has older stuff. Via has stuff from the 40s, so and it's still going. That's on the Canadian, which they're trying to replace, which not so happy about, but I can understand. It's like 80 plus years old. It needs replacing. But back to the LRC, the cars still exist. You can see them on a normal Via train, not on the Siemens sets, obviously, because those are venture cars, and not on the Canadian, because the Canadian has the Bud cars. And so the LRC cars only are on the corridor. Um, and I think that's it. I think all the other services of Via have Bud cars, although I could be wrong. So to conclude this video, the Alto trains are Canada's new high-speed rail trains, which are supposed to be coming in 5 to 6 years from now, but who knows if that's going to be accurate. But anyway, I don't know, like there's no rendering of what the trains will look like, or at least that I've found. So let's wait and see to see what they look like. Hopefully they don't pick like ugly colors. Hopefully it looks nice. And Peterborough's back on a train map. Although I don't know, Peterborough doesn't seem too happy about that, but I think that they should just deal with it because I think that service to Peterborough would be cool. Um, and I think that they have multiple route choices for Toronto, and they should bring back some abandoned track, especially if they use the Stouffville line. And if they do use the Stouffville line, then Go should expand the Stouffville line, not just having more trains, but expanding the train line itself all the way up to Uxbridge, which isn't actually that far from Stouffville, and is completely doable um, if Via decides to use that alignment. Because otherwise, I think those tracks are just going to be sitting abandoned for however long they last. But yeah, that's it for this video. Sorry if I don't have that much information. Half of this was just me thinking about how it would work and if it would work well. So if you disagree, you can tell me. Um, and yeah, that's it for this video. Bye.